daughter Lee with her hand on one of the red granite plugs in the Great Pyramid of Giza. The reason we ended up being down there and why some of these things then took on a very significant nature is because that there were keys in the Great Pyramid of Giza that allowed us to understand some of the techniques that were used in building Solomon's temple, as we will now see the rest of the picture develop. Because we know that the tabernacle in the wilderness was 30 cubits by 10 cubits, the Holy of Holies being 10 by 10, you see how the Ark of the Covenant just fit in the Holy of Holies. There was not a lot of extra room. But Solomon's temple was 60 cubits by 20 cubits, the Holy of Holies 20 by 20, and you see that the Ark of the Covenant was dwarfed by the Holy of Holies, but the location of the Ark within the Holy of Holies was very, very unusual. And you're going to see this as it develops. Now, this is done on a vector-based computer program, and all these lines are mathematically described. So you're going to see its location and how this worked. Now, as the scripture says, King Solomon sent and fetched Hiram out of Tyre, a worker in brass. Hiram was filled with wisdom and understanding and cunning to work all works of brass. This is the Hiram of which the Masons call Hiram of Biff. Now, of course, the Masons go back, at least philosophically, to the masonry of the building of Solomon's temple. That's what it's referring to as Masons or masonry. Hiram was a key player. It says that he cast 2 pillars of brass, 18 cubits high apiece, and a line of 12 cubits did compass them about. So they were 12 cubits in circumference. And he made 2 chapiters or capitals of molten brass to sit on tops of the pillars. The height of the capitals, 5 cubits. Very important. 5 cubit capitals. Here we see the pillars. The pillars, using the Royal Egyptian cubit on which everything at the time of Solomon was measured, and we can go back to the archaeological finds and see that, we see that the pillars were 30.93 feet tall, 18 cubits. They were 6.5 feet in diameter, and they were hollow, 1 handbreadth in wall thickness. On top of these 31-foot pillars are 2 brass capitals. They are 5 cubits, 8.6 feet tall. They are 12 cubits, or 20.62 feet in circumference, 6.5 foot diameter. These are huge, hundreds of tons, and they are going to sit on top of hollow columns, 31 feet tall, out in front of the temple, and they do not bear anything. They are not holding anything up. They are independent. They stand by themselves. Now look what Solomon does. He names these pillars. The right pillar he named Jachin, which means base or fulcrum in Hebrew, and the left pillar he named Boaz. A lever system is being described here. You have the fulcrum and you have the force. The lever bar is the only thing that is missing in the equation here. Now, this is what they look like. They were named, and in every Masonic temple in the world, as I understand, on either side of the speaker, there is a pillar. One has a B, one has a J. And tonight, you are going to learn more than any 33rd degree Mason knows about these pillars. Because it was Solomon who said, it is the glory of God to conceal a matter. It is the glory of kings and kings' children to search them out. And all these things that were written in the Scriptures nearly 3,000 years ago, detailing the building of Solomon's temple, you're going to see how, because of this water gushing into the Temple Mount this year, and what happened with discovering the southern foundation of Solomon's temple, how it all relates to the location of the Ark of the Covenant. Now you see that the pillars, again, are outside of the temple on the porch. There they are, B and J. And here is, to your far right, the brazen altar. Then you see the sea of fire and brass, the brazen laver. And then you see the pillars on the porch. And as you walk inside, if you are, your last name is Cohen, if you're Kohanim, on the right-hand side is the table of showbread. On the left is the lampstand. And then against the back wall, but away from it, is the altar of incense. And now we have to put the Ark of the Covenant in place. And at the dedication, the priest brought the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord into the most holy place, the Devir. And they drew out the staves. At the end of the staves were seen out in the holy place before the oracle, and they were not seen without. And there they are to this day. What does it mean they were seen without and they were not seen without? When you put the Ark of the Covenant in position to where the staves would just touch the curtain, and then you draw the staves out to one end, they literally push the curtain out so that you can see, as you're standing in the holy place, that the curtain has been pushed out, and you can see the impression that the staves are making by pushing the curtain out, but you can't look upon the ark itself, so you can't see the staves themselves. That's how they were seen without, but not seen without. Now look what is applicable here. Once you pull the staves out to one end, then the entire ark, including the staves, are completely off from the top of this stone. Why was that necessary? Because you are looking, the top of that stone is the top of a sand hydraulic stone elevator that Solomon built in the temple, and he has built a machine to hide the Ark of the Covenant in the case of a siege of Jerusalem. Watch how it develops. At the dedication of the temple, Solomon spoke and said that the Lord said he would dwell in thick darkness. I have surely built thee an house to dwell in, a settled place for thee to abide in forever. Now this is a very short statement, but in that he uses some very obscure Hebrew words, and a couple of them are only used this one place in the Scripture. And remember, Solomon is a master of riddles. The Lord said he would dwell, which is Shekan, which is an established place to inhabit, in thick darkness. Thick darkness is Araphel, which means on a lower level. I have surely built thee a house to dwell in. The word dwell is Zebul, on a higher level, and a settled place, Makoan, a fixed place for thee to abide forever. In that, what it appears that he's saying, that he has prepared an exalted residence on a higher level, the beautiful Temple of Solomon, and a place on a lower level for the ark to abide forever. And forever in the Hebrew understanding means an extremely long period of time. It doesn't mean for all of eternity. Now, 500 years later, Scriptures say that Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came against Jerusalem and built forts against it and round about. All the way around the city of Jerusalem, a siege wall was built, and Nebuzaradan, the captain of the host of the Chaldean army, then, with the siege engines, broke down the walls of Jerusalem. And when they broke them down and broke down the walls of Jerusalem, they broke through onto the Temple Mount first, and the shock troops got up onto the Temple Mount and began slaughtering man, woman, and child, just as Ezekiel said that judgment would begin at the house of the Lord. When he got up on the Temple Mount, he then entered into Solomon's temple, because he is going after the greatest treasures on planet Earth. The Ark of the Covenant, the gold of the Ark, the gold of the table of showbread, the altar of incense, the seven-branched lampstand. And when he got into the holy place, what did Nebuzaradan find? Nothing. There was nothing there. Where were the articles of gold? It says Nebuzaradan burnt the house of the Lord, the king's house, all the houses of Jerusalem. He ransacked everything. For what was Nebuzaradan searching? He was searching for the Ark of the Covenant. You would expect that you would find the Ark of the Covenant nicely displayed on that beautiful, huge stone in there. Wouldn't you? But that is not where it was ever located.